All right, we're ready to begin. Sorry, I was putting on my headset there. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lucy Gray. I'm the co-chair of the conference, and I am very pleased to welcome some people from Bone Education in the Middle East. We have Anna Batchelder and her husband Christopher, and Karen, I'm not sure how to pronounce your last name, Fasimpaur. You can tell us how to pronounce your name. I'm going to butcher it. But we're really happy to have you here because Anna was recommended as a keynote last year by Kevin Simpson, and we've been able to get her to come today along with her team, and we're really excited to hear about a new project that was mentioned by Cable Green of Creative Commons in his keynote earlier this week. So I'm gonna let them introduce themselves with a little bit more detail, but I want to give you I want to give some special thanks right now to our sponsors, iEarn USA, who's been instrumental in supporting this conference in so many ways, BrainPop, Flat Classroom Project, Little Lives, Big Dreams, of course Blackboard Collaborate, and TechSmith. So we're grateful for their support. And now we're going to move on to our map activity. I'm going to make sure that everybody has whiteboard privileges. And right now you're going to take the pointer, which is the little star tool on the left-hand side of the whiteboard, and indicate where you are in the world today to give us a little bit of a global perspective. You may have to click twice. I think I just clicked in the wrong place. It's not working for me, but maybe for you it will be. Okay, well, I'm in Chicago, Illinois, so you can also, no audio? Debbie? Debbie, if you cannot hear anything, you might want to run the audio wizard under Tools. Okay? I'm going to also type in the box where I am. And you can also type in your location, too. I can see Anna and Christopher where they are. Yay! Okay, so we've got people from all over, and this just kind of brings the point of this conference home, that it's easier than ever to connect and to work across borders. And so we're thrilled to have you all here. I'm going to turn this over to the team, and they can tell you a little bit more about themselves and their work, and we're so thrilled to have you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Let me just move the slides forward. Thank you all for coming to our presentation on peer-to-peer university. We really hope you enjoyed this presentation, and we welcome you all to participate actively. We've tried to design the session so that there are lots of opportunities for you to talk and give feedback and ask questions by using the chat box in the bottom left-hand side of your screen. Before we get started, we'll just do a round of introductions and then we'll dive right in. So as Lucy mentioned, my name is Anna Batchelder, and I am co-founder of Bond Education. We're based in the Middle East, and we do a lot of work with educators and principals across the region, helping them use technology for teaching, learning, communicating with the community, and parents. I also love to blog on education technology in emerging markets. So I'm going to hand it over to Karen if you want to introduce yourself.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Karen Fasimpaur, and Lucy, you did well with my name. I always appreciate people who try it because I know it's a hard one. I do a lot of work with open education and open educational resources, as well as blended learning and tech integration. I work with schools across the United States. And among other things in my past, I lived and taught in East Africa for several years. So the whole topic of global education is of great interest to me. And I just want to thank Steve and Lucy and everybody who volunteered to put this on. I think this has been just a tremendous conference. And I appreciate everybody attending our session, and we'll have lots of opportunities for input and collaboration in this session as well. I'll turn it over to Chris.
Hi, my name is Chris Batchelder, and I'm also one of the co-founders of Bond Education. And in addition to the training work that we do that Anna mentioned, We also are involved in product development and helping companies with their strategy around that. I also started my career as an English teacher and in Japan. So global education is also a passion of mine. So where are we going today? Thanks so much to everybody for coming. We're going to start out just briefly introducing peer-to-peer university and talking a bit about what is it, its focus on peer learning and the way it's organized. The different peer-to-peer schools, and in particular, of course, the School of Education pilot, which Karen, Anna, and I, and a bunch of other wonderful people have been working on this fall. Looking at the next steps for peer-to-peer university and leaving plenty of time at the end to get your thoughts, comments, suggestions, and ideas about this project and how you can be involved. So I will turn it over to Anna. Karen, sorry.
Okay, so just a little bit about peer-to-peer university, or P2PU. I got involved with P2PU a little over a year ago when it was just beginning, and it is a very sort of new grassroots initiative. And the idea of P2PU is to provide a space for learning and learning about anything and by anyone. And part of the idea of P2PU is that anyone can start a course as a facilitator, but that it's really based on peer learning. So there are basically three important foundations for P2PU, and those are peer learning, community, and openness. And really using the power of the internet and all the resources that are out there to allow people to learn about whatever they want to learn with their peers. And I think the openness is something that's really important. I do a lot of work in open education, and I mentioned in chat, if anybody didn't see Cable Green's keynote, it was really great. He talked about the importance of openness from a policy standpoint. But the basic idea of open content is that it's licensed in a way that allows for free use, distribution, and remix. And the most common open licenses are from Creative Commons, and all of the content on P2PU is licensed under a Creative Commons share-alike license. And what share-alike means is you can take the content on P2PU and use it for whatever you want, as long as you do two things. You have to attribute the source where it came from, so say, whoever developed the course, give an attribution, and then also that you share the resulting products that you make under a share-alike license as well. So you could take courses from P2PU and you could download them and print them off as booklets if you want. You could make them into an online course in another environment. You could post them on your website. You could make podcasts or movies out of them, just anything you want. So I think one of the things that's really exciting about P2PU for me is that it's just a huge store of learning content that we can all use for a variety of different purposes. And I think, we're going to talk more about what some of the courses are on P2PU, but there's just a huge variety of things. So let's talk a little bit about peer learning. And what I'd like to do is have everybody in the chat window just write a sentence or two about what peer learning means to you. And if you have an example of something that you've done with peer learning that's been really effective, just share that example. And we'll just take a minute or two for everybody to do that. So I'm seeing some really great examples and thoughts about peer learning in the chat window. And Debbie, you're right. Facebook is a great tool for peer learning, and I know a lot of schools are starting to set up Facebook pages, but also just any conversation you have with somebody, with your friends, that's about learning anything, that's part of peer learning, even on Facebook. So please continue to keep chatting about this, but I'll just go on and talk a little bit about why we are excited about peer learning. So the basic idea of peer learning is that everyone is a teacher and a learner. And at P2PU, we have course facilitators or organizers, but we really like to think of it in that framework as an organizer or a facilitator and not necessarily a teacher. And some of the organizers in the courses at P2PU have a lot of expertise in that area, but some of them really are just looking to explore a topic along with a group of students. So the background of our organizers varies a lot. But the idea is that we ask everybody in a group at P2PU to help and agree to participate as a teacher and a learner. And I think that's really important in education because first of all, we all bring a wealth of background experiences and just different ways to look at things, and it makes for a richer learning environment. And I think it's also more authentic. One of the reasons I got involved in P2PU is I do a lot of professional development, I do a lot of ed tech conferences, and it seems to me that the model that we follow in a lot of those is not, it's very much an expert standing up and talking for an hour, especially at some of the conferences. And I'm interested in finding more environments like this conference where we're all contributing ideas and everybody's participating, and it's just a more authentic learning environment. And I think that's also important because it gives us as teachers a model to think about for our own classroom, because we really want that peer learning environment where students are taking control of their own learning and everybody's sort of guiding their path through it. That also leads to a deeper learning experience. We all know that when you really learn something is when you can teach it and when you can sort of step back and forth between those two roles. And of course, learning is a very social activity. And probably nothing in my life has brought that more to light than P2PU. And just all of the different online activities that are social and how much that enriches the whole learning experience. So I just want to say a little bit about some of the different courses and what's going on at P2PU. So P2PU was not started to deal specifically with education, and really prior to, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, there really wasn't a lot of content for K-12 teachers there. But there's content about just everything you can imagine. So there are classes on HTML5 development, and there's actually quite a breadth of technical development classes. There are schools within P2PU. So there's a technical development school called the School of Webcraft, and that's been developed through a partnership with Mozilla. And there's just a huge number of different courses there. There are courses on entrepreneurial business studies. There are courses on poetry. There's one I just saw on learning to speak Japanese. So just really almost everything you can imagine. And you can go, if you go to the P2PU site, you can browse and just see all the things there. So the first course that I was involved in at P2PU was not in the education space. But as soon as I went there, I thought, oh, there's so much potential here for teachers and for really a new model of professional development. And that was my interest in P2PU, was to look at it as an experiment for what are some different and potentially better ways that we can do professional development, particularly with in-service teachers, which is the area I work in a lot, but also pre-service, just to establish something where more the teachers are driving the learning process. So that's where the idea of the School of Ed on P2PU came. And we kind of bounced the idea around about doing a couple courses, and then we were able to get some initial funding from the Hewlett Foundation, who does a lot of work with open education, to sort of try a pilot. So that came about in this summer, and they were interested in getting a very quick pilot going. So we put together 7 courses, and these are the courses. They were developed by a number of different people, including Anna and Chris, and they were launched in September of this year, and we're now just wrapping up with the pilot. So all the courses that you see listed here are available on P2PU right now. Again, this round of courses we're just wrapping up on. But one of the kind of nice things about P2PU is you can jump in at any time, and even if you're not in sync with where the course is, you can still use the content, engage in the discussion, do whatever you want with it. But where we are right now with the pilot is we're sort of wrapping it up, and we'll talk in a little bit about what we learned from the pilot. But I think one of our focuses today is we're looking now at the next phase of this, and we're very anxious to get input from people about what they'd like to see in terms of next steps. So that'll be sort of the last half of this presentation. We'll really be brainstorming it with you. So I'm going to turn it over to Anna now to talk about the opportunity.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, so just to put P2PU in a global education context, here's sort of the need or the opportunity we see for a solution like peer-to-peer university. If you look across countries around the world, many educators are looking for ongoing professional development on how to teach, classroom management, creating effective assessments, things like that. Especially in more remote areas, teachers don't have very much access to ongoing professional development, either because there aren't that many staff in the building or because there aren't local universities close by. Schools, obviously everywhere, are challenged by the budget crunches and things like that. Also, when we look at the international assessment data and we see countries like Finland and Singapore at the top, we want to know what are they doing there. And, based on our travels in different countries, there are just so many neat projects going on in different countries. And so it's great to have an opportunity to connect with educators in other places. Also, a need that educators often say is that, we do have access to PD, but it's not exactly what I need or what I want. And so one of the things that we really love about peer-to-peer university, especially being based in the Middle East, is that it really speaks to a number of the needs of educators, especially in emerging markets. Just to give you an example, I recently had a conversation with a principal in a remote area of the United Arab Emirates, and he was saying that he has such a challenge, hiring and finding certified educators. So he tends to hire, students right out of college with subject matter expertise, but maybe not so many, if any, teaching classes. So when they get in the classroom, they're looking for additional support on how to teach. And because he doesn't have that many staff, he really struggles to put together the courses himself. So what's wonderful about peer-to-peer is he can send new teachers or even more experienced teachers to learn from peers around the world, but also because of the open licensing of the courses, that means that he can take the courses and translate them and localize them for his needs. So, and there's so many examples of schools like this. So, I think peer-to-peer is just a great opportunity. To give you more context on what an actual course on peer-to-peer is like, I'm going to turn the slides over to Chris.
So we wanted to give a case study so that you could see what how a course actually plays out in the P2PU open environment. And to do that, we wanted to use the course that Anna and I facilitated this fall, which is using social media and Web 2.0 to encourage deeper learning. This is a 6-week course, and we had about 18 participants actively participating in the course and about 40 followers who were tracking what was going on offline and not actively part of the discussion. And of these 18, I would say about 30 of them were international. 30% of them were international, and the rest were based in the United States. We had people logging in from time zones in Japan, in Australia, and they're collaborating with the folks in the US, in Canada, and in Mexico. And because we had people from such a wide range of areas all around the globe, we decided to try our courses completely asynchronous. And to do that, we structured our course around a series of tasks. And if you go into our course, we'll post the link to our course so that you can click on it and explore around as I'm talking. We used a series of tasks, and these tasks were repeated on a weekly basis. And we had different task types. So we had social tasks, reflective tasks, practical tasks, and project tasks. And the social tasks were designed to get the participants talking to each other, sharing, getting to know one another, and really trying to create a sense of community and create that social bond. The reflective tasks were centered around watching videos, doing readings, and responding to guiding questions with the idea that participants would really reflect on their personal practice, the areas where they're strong, and also those areas where they really wanted to grow with regards to using social media in the classroom. And so from that, we started with a question, which is, what is deeper learning? And with that, we started with the Hewlett Foundation's definition of deeper learning, which the core components are academic content knowledge, critical thinking, complex problem solving, effective communication, working in collaboration, and learning how to learn. And we asked our participants to really use this as a jumping off point and make it their own, add to it, subtract from it, and really sort of wrestle with this idea of what is deeper learning. And the conversation that came out of it was really exciting. There was tremendous engagement and involvement. And at the end, our participants created 3 new categories that they wanted to add to the definition of deeper learning. They added a global perspective, they added real-world application, and they added divergent thinking. And so from all that brainstorming, the participants then jumped into practical projects, concrete projects that they could execute in their classroom. And I wanted to just highlight 2 examples of projects that came out of the course and that were implemented in the classroom. The first one was a teacher in Texas, a teacher of high school economics. And this teacher found a company in Australia, a company that sells guava jelly, actually, and this company was thinking about entering the U.S. market. And so the students in Texas used collaborative technology like Skype to conference with the company in Australia, assess their needs, learn about the company, and also learn about the Australian economy and the Australian market, and compare that with the U.S. market and the U.S. economy. And the end, then the students created a series of recommendations. And so we think this is a really exciting example of using social media. The second example is a teacher on the west coast of the United States, and this teacher had students create e-portfolios using LinkedIn, the social network LinkedIn. And the idea there was that students would prepare themselves for life after high school, either entering the workforce or going on into college. So we were really excited about the way the reflective tasks worked and the way the practical tasks worked. The second half of our course centered around creating a wiki kit that would, where the participants could synthesize their learning and share it with other teachers around the globe. And we're going to post a link to one of those pages that was created during this project, so you can check it out. In the second half of the course, and when the project started, we found that about 50% of our participants sort of went silent and dropped off. And we had another core group of 50, the other 50% really engaged in the project and dug into it. And those who stayed with the project and reported getting immense value out of the opportunity to collaborate with other teachers across borders and also to engage in the project. And one of the things that we're interested in and getting input from everyone who's listening today at the end of the presentation is brainstorming how we can, in an open and collaborative platform where participants aren't paying and they're not getting credit, what are the things we can do to increase engagement? So I'm going to turn it over to Anna to talk about sort of more global lessons that were learned from all of the pilot case studies.
Thanks, Chris. So just to sort of share our lessons learned across the 7 pilot courses, we found huge interest and support for just the idea of peer-to-peer itself as well as a school of education. We created, across the facilitators that participated in the pilot, we created 7 courses that are open license and they've been deployed. These courses will exist forever, so if any of you want to take them and share them or copy them or modify them or remix them, you're able to do that on the peer-to-peer university platform. In fact, when you click create a course, you can make a copy of a course and then you can modify from there. We had about 375 people participate in the pilot, either as participants or followers, so we had quite a large group. And yes, as Karen mentioned, peer-to-peer lets you make your own courses as well. We got some emails from people that weren't actively participating in the courses, but they were following and doing all the readings and watching the videos. So that kind of participation is a bit hard to read, but it was great to hear from some people either on email or Twitter that they were following. We had over 1,300 posts across the different courses and conversations. Some of the courses did host synchronous webinars. I know Karen's did. In the case of our course, although our content was all asynchronous, the group project, we formed mini groups within the course that had people from different subjects but similar time zones, and they did a lot of Skyping and synchronous Google Docs and asynchronous Google Docs. We designed the pilot initially with the idea that many of the participants would be from the U.S., but what was fantastic was to see such a strong interest internationally, and we're definitely, as we talk about the strategy for the School of Education moving forward, we're really hoping to increase the international participation. We have a lot of interest coming at the moment from South America, and we're definitely interested out here in the Middle East, and we've been talking to people. If you look across the courses, we've had some fantastic deeper learning conversations, so we encourage you to go in and read and feel free to comment. One of the challenges we've faced in the pilot is we've noticed that, as we get closer to the holidays at the end of the year and end of semester, the time has been a crunch. So the courses seem to have lots of active participation at the beginning, but it sort of tapered off near the end, and we had sort of a core group of people that were definitely leading the charge. One of the things we'd love to get feedback from you is on, what course formats or what length of course formats would be interesting to you, because, on the one hand, it seems that courses have a lot of activity at the beginning, but, initial survey feedback data has indicated that a number of the participants of the courses actually wanted the courses to be even longer than 6 weeks. So we're deciding whether we do more event-based courses, 2-week courses, longer courses. So if you have ideas on that or preferences, we'd love for you to share. So I'll be fielding some questions later, but I'm going to turn it over to Karen so that she can share some next steps, and then we'll have a lot of interactivity.
Great. Thanks, Anna. So we really do want to spend most of the rest of the time just getting feedback from you on what would be most useful for our next steps. Like I said, we're wrapping up the pilot, and we're really now looking at strategic planning. So some of the things that we're going to be asking about, so you can start thinking about them, are what kind of topics would you be most interested in, what kind of course format in terms of length. We're very interested in people's thoughts about formal credit and how important that is. And then we're also definitely looking at building out several international initiatives. So we're going to use the chat tool to begin with, and then we'll also do some polling. But to begin with, just a really wide open question. What topics would you like to see courses on? We really want, and go ahead and just start typing ideas of anything you have, and don't feel limited to even ed tech. I mean, we did courses in the last session that were more just general curriculum and classroom management oriented. Anything that would be of interest to you in terms of a course, and I'll give people a couple minutes to type things in for that. We really want the next round of P2PU courses to come from ideas from the community, because that's the whole idea of P2PU, is that the community and the participants drive what we're doing. Mobile learning is a great idea. Some of you know I do. I also have a company called K-12 Handhelds and do a lot with mobile learning, so that's something that would be of interest to me. And I would also say, don't feel like any ideas are too narrow or specific, because there's really no limitations on P2PU. There are courses that have just a few people that are just intensely involved in a specific sort of area, and there are some that are very broad. And in some sense, I think even the narrower classes are stronger, because it's not all about how many people we get to participate, but it's about a deep engagement. And I think having a small group with a very specific topic that everyone's really passionate and interested in can be a great way to drive engagement. I'm seeing so many cool ideas in here. So I'm gonna let people kind of keep go on with those. And this is a little bit of just a different take on that same question, which is these are just general topics, not specific course ideas, but which of these general topics would be of most interest to you? And if you look under your participants window, the fourth icon over is a little letter A. Go ahead and choose from these 5 categories which of these areas might be of most interest to you. And these came from sort of a pool of some things that have been suggested. And so I see a question about how do you incorporate this into university courses. We're going to talk a little bit about sort of formal credit options down the road. But I think certainly another way this could be done, and one of the things we're looking at with the future of P2PU is maybe doing some blended courses where we have some face-to-face meetings and then also online engagement. And I would be really interested in doing that in collaboration with a university teaching pre-service teachers. And I know we've had a couple of universities express a possible interest in that. So if you are at a university and that's something that's of interest to you, that's something we would be really interested in exploring. So we'll give email addresses at the end, or certainly pop into the chat. So I'm going to go ahead and summarize these responses. Up here. So it looks like the innovative practices is something that's of big interest, and also teaching methods. Okay, I appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and clear that and go to the next one. So this is a question about format. And in the first round of P2PU, we chose basically a 6-week format. We had one course that was 4 weeks, but primarily we did a 6-week course with hands-on projects as well. So we're looking now at some other course formats to experiment with. And I think, another thing that I love about P2PU is it really is a sort of a laboratory environment where we can try different things and see what really works. So go ahead and, again, vote with your little letter of which format. And I'm seeing so far a big variation. It's really interesting. So just a couple words about this. One idea we had was to do a 1 or 2 day, sort of a very intensive look at something, almost like an online conference where we'd have guest speakers and really focus it on just a short period of time. Another is to have more of a 2-week, this is B, more of a 2-week sort of just discussion group, but maybe with less readings or videos and more focused on discussion. The 6-week course is what we've done so far, which is a combination of discussion and readings and hands-on projects. And then I have other as a suggestion. One thing that's been brought up with as a suggestion is that maybe we do something like A or B, where we have a shorter, intensive thing with a lot of people, and then we have some groups spin off from that do a longer, more intensive study. So one of the, and this came about, one of the courses that we did was on OER, and we looked at building OER, and in the course of that, came up with an idea to remix an open textbook, and the one we chose was elementary math, to remix it into a more interactive and multimedia-rich format through Moodle. And we sort of started building a little pilot of that. And a small group of people said, we'd be really interested in working on this. And it ended up spinning off into another P2PU course that's just been set up, and it actually hasn't been started. So if anybody's interested in participating in that, it's a remix math course, and it's going to be starting in December. So that's kind of the idea of taking a course and then spinning off a group from it. So I see the answers here are pretty much all over the board, and I see the chat as well. Different things fit different people's lives at different times. And my suspicion is that P2PU and the School of Ed will have a variety of different formats. And that's certainly, if you look, for the School of Ed, we kind of focused on a specific thing that we wanted to try. But if you look more broadly across P2PU, you will see courses of every format. So some have a very specific start and stop date. Some of them are much more, open enrollment. Anybody can come and go at any time. So there's really just a lot of different options. So again, I'm going to clear this, and we're going to talk about formal credit now. And the question is, which, if any of these, is important to you? And I would also say, more broadly, important to the teachers you work with. Because I know many of you here represent sort of a group at your school, or you're the leaders at your school. So what kind of credit is important? And this is something that we're looking at the School of Ed, just to be able to provide the sort of credits that meet people's needs in terms of whether it's certification or salary scale or whatever it is. I'll give everybody a minute. So this is really, really interesting to me. So a number of you said formal credit isn't important, and I think, that's the general philosophy of P2PU is that it's about sort of intrinsic motivation and things that people want to learn for their own purposes, which doesn't really relate to formal credit. But I think we also recognize, particularly for teachers, there are so many demands for professional development that it would be really nice to offer some kind of formal credit. And at least in the United States, it varies from state to state, whether it's university graduate credits or university PD credits or district-approved credits. But I'm very interested that a number of you express an interest in a P2P issued certificate or badge. So if you're not familiar with the area of badges, it's something that is an evolving field. And there's actually a course on P2PU that is about badges and how those might be used, and that's definitely something that we are exploring. So I appreciate everybody's input on that. And I'm going to go ahead and clear that. And then I'd really just like to open it up to any kind of general discussion or comments about what would make P2PU a useful environment for you. And if anybody would like to speak, just if you raise your hand or put in the chat, we can give you microphone privileges, or certainly feel free to type in the chat. And Chris and Anna, if you want to kind of chime in on any of this. I also put an email address. This is a general email address for the School of Ed. We'll put up our personal email addresses as well. But we're really, really super eager to get feedback from people. Go ahead, Anna.
Hi, everyone. One of the things we've been brainstorming with Karen and others is the idea of using P2PU as a platform for developing some structured cross-border teacher collaborations. And I'd love to get your feedback. If we did set up a formal program for, connecting, for example, teachers in the Middle East with teachers in China or in the U.S. or Australia, what type of collaboration would we be looking for? Would you be looking to connect with other educators to set up, connections between your students? Would you want to have sort of subject-based discussions or discussions on pedagogy or just general comparative discussions? Any thoughts on that would be great.
So I'm going to jump in on the question about new contributors designing and offering their own course. So on the main page of P2PU, there is a giant button that says Start Your Own. So on the main page of P2PU, there's a button there's a big box that says Browse Groups and Courses, and there's one that says Start Your Own. And you can click Start Your Own and just create your own course. And it doesn't have to be a remix. One thing that's important if you're creating your own course is that all of the content that is posted on P2PU is open licensed under a Creative Commons Share-alike license. So it's important that you be willing, if you're going to post your own content, that you be willing to license it that way. And that, just so you know, that means you still own copyright. It just means that others can use your work in different ways if they want. And then you can also link to or embed content from other sources. And the content that you link to or embed doesn't necessarily have to be open license. I think there's a preference for that because it gives people more flexibility. But the only requirement from P2PU is that it be openly accessible, so that it not be behind a firewall. And basically, once you do that Start Your Own button, you create a course, you give it a little description, and then you create a series of what P2PU calls tasks. And tasks can be hands-on activities, they could be discussion prompts, they could be readings. We have one course in the School of Ed that's on effective use of multimedia for deeper learning, and the facilitator for that course created a whole series of interactive videos about the research that he was talking about. So there's really, it's wide open in terms of what kinds of content you can put in there. And there are a variety of different ways to have participants interact through posting comments. There's an IRC chat channel, and then the option to do webinars as well. And we've used Big Blue Button as a webinar tool, which is a free open source tool, but people can use whatever they want. So you could use Illuminate, or you could use whatever. And it's really, it's just, the system itself is kind of it's just a framework, but what you can do with it in terms of creating your own course, the sky's the limit. So any other comments about what would make this most useful to you, or questions about P2PU? I'm going to catch up on chat a little bit. One thing I'd say about the P2PU platform is it's a very simple platform. And a lot of us have worked in other platforms, but I've found that people who haven't developed or designed online courses, P2PU is a really nice, simple way to just jump in and get something up and going. As far as where you could go to find out more about this, I would recommend going to the P2PU School of Ed page. So there's an address up here for that page. And there's also a link on that page at the very top where you can sign up to get updates about this. And this is this isn't going to be like weekly updates. Like if you sign up for a course, you'll get all kinds of information and updates. But this is just a few times a year when we do a major course launch. And there's also a place there if you're interested in developing a course or being a partner in some other way that we could talk more about that. And definitely email us if you have questions or ideas. I think the most important thing is that this is a sort of a laboratory environment where we're trying lots of different things, and we would love to see some people come in and just have brand new ideas and try different things. Most of the courses at P2PU, the model is they're facilitated by volunteers, and like we said, anybody can jump in and create a course. Also, if anyone's interested in facilitating a future round of one of the courses we just offered, we would love to have people do that. So I saw a couple of people were interested in differentiating instruction. We have a course that was offered on that through our pilot. If somebody would be interested in facilitating or even co-facilitating, if you feel like maybe you're not ready to sort of take on the whole thing, but you would want to do it with somebody else, we would very much welcome you to do that and be happy to support you in doing that, because I think the thing that makes this going forward is getting a lot of people involved in the facilitation as well as participating in courses. Any other questions or comments or ideas for us? Well, I really appreciate everybody's enthusiasm for this, and I think this is something that Anna, Chris, and I, and the other facilitators in the pilot phase are really, really excited about, and we're looking forward to expanding it. And again, we really want we want to build a community and have that community sort of drive our future. So I hope to get emails and to hear from lots of you, and we hope to see you at the School of Ed sometime soon.
Thank you, everyone.
And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.